Life's hard enough already, but for some reason, we like to make it harder on ourselves. One of the ways we like to do this is by setting these silly little traps for ourselves that make us feel bad, isolates us from other people, increases our chances of anxiety and depression, and ruins our interpersonal relationships. It reduces our productivity, distorts our perception of reality, and inhibits our personal growth. This trap is so common and so easy to set for ourselves. It makes me wonder why we're not taught how to avoid this in school or anywhere else when we're young. Maybe it's because our teachers and parents do it too. Without further ado, let's introduce this nightmare of a trapdoor: taking things personally. Taking things personally involves interpreting actions, comments, or situations as a direct reflection of yourself, and usually feeling hurt or offended even if the comments or whatever weren't meant to make you feel that way. It's that feeling when you don't get invited to something and you think it's because they don't like you. It's that feeling when you're with your partner and they're on their phone and you feel like they're not interested in you anymore. That feeling when you've just worked so hard on something and you feel really bad about yourself and insulted if other people don't like it. What I like to do here is practice asking myself more healthy and useful questions. Instead of being like, why didn't they invite me? I'm like, why do I care? Instead of asking myself, does my partner find me less interesting? I ask myself, are there times where I'm ever on my phone around them and it's not because I don't find them less interesting? Instead of, I've worked so hard on this, why don't they like it? I ask myself, why does it make me feel so bad when I don't get the approval of others? Asking better questions will almost always get you better answers. The first set of questions gives you answers like, they don't like me, yes, my partner finds me uninteresting, and these other people don't care at all about my hard work. These are the answers that you're exposing yourself to with bad questions. The other questions give answers like, I have FOMO and want to be liked by other people. I have been on my phone around my partner and it's not because I find them less interesting. And I actually do care a lot about what other people think about my hard work, and I tie my self-worth into what they think about me. And yeah, those answers aren't going to make you feel good, but how are you going to get better by feeling good all the time? What's real meta is learning how to feel good even when bad things happen. But that's for another video. So as you can see, a great solution for taking things personally, as for a lot of other things in life, is literally just asking yourself better questions, more useful ones. One set of questions makes you feel bad and makes you be less aware of you and your surroundings, while the other questions help you understand yourself better and see where you might need to improve. The answers to the more useful questions also gave us insights into the psychological reasons why people might take things personally. Low self-esteem. If you feel really bad about yourself when people don't like you or don't approve of you, you might have low self-esteem. You're measuring how much you're worth by what other people think of you instead of what you think of you. Now, funnily enough, it's not entirely your fault. To fight low self-esteem is to fight your own biology. You see, we evolved to have a need for others' approval. Back tens of thousands of years ago when we were hunter-gatherers, before your cool little smartphones and hot showers, if everyone in your little tribe hated you, you'd get kicked out and probably die out in the wild before you could have kids. This made it that genes that were more likely to make you feel pain when rejected by other people were more likely to be passed down, and therefore built this instinctual need for approval into us. These days though, you're probably not going to die if you don't get invited to that party or get those 100 Instagram likes that you wanted. So time to start fighting that evolutionary need for approval and build some self-esteem. Your self-worth should be based in what you think of yourself with some input from others, not what other people think with some input from you. Lack of perspective. I find that there's so much complaining and ungratefulness these days. So much of people just not recognizing what they have. What I'm about to share with you is the mindset that I use to have perspective and not get too worked up about the little challenges that come up in my life. Hopefully it can be useful to you too. Whenever something bad happens, I just think to myself, there are billions of people in this world that would consider their prayers answered if they had my life. Let that sink in. Billions of people whose hopes, prayers, dreams, wishes would be answered if they had a fraction of the prosperity that I had in my life. Don't you think that billions of people would consider their prayers answered if only they had the hot showers that you enjoy every day, the smartphone you have, the comfortable bed you sleep in, the good food and water you have, the decent clothes you wear, if they could just be able to read and write and have a roof over their head and maybe even have some extra time to chill and watch Netflix? billions of people would consider themselves blessed to be in your position, and you're getting all worked up because you think somebody's insulting you, because you didn't get to go to some party, because you got passed up for some promotion, because people don't like the hard work you did? Come on. This perspective shift works for so many things, not just taking things personally. See the big picture. Be grateful for what you have. Billions wish that they could have what you do, so don't take it for granted. Difficulty putting yourself in other people's shoes. There's this saying that I like that goes, "It's far easier to see the splinter in someone else's hand than the spear through ours." When these sorts of situations happen that make us feel like we've been slighted, we like to assume that the first interpretation that we had of the situation was perfect and we had a perfect full idea of the big picture, when really, the fact that we had the reaction at all is a good indicator that we probably don't. Next time something like that happens, put on your detective hat and try to think of any other explanation for why whatever just happened, instead of just assuming that your first interpretation was right. Maybe the other person was in a rush and didn't mean to make you feel like they were shutting you down. Maybe they were tired. Maybe they were having a bad day. And an infinite number of other maybes that could explain the situation better than just, they don't like me and want to hurt my feelings. And worse, I'm gonna let them hurt my feelings. Give people the benefit of the doubt. This exercise isn't for them. It's for you. The only person who's going to feel it once they're gone is you. If they've made you mad and you keep feeling that way, you're the one who's going to be hurting, not them. So it's better to find some kind of explanation that puts some rest to your mind, because why subject yourself to that kind of unrest? Give people the benefit of the doubt. I'm sure you would like it if people gave you the benefit of the doubt if they felt that you slighted them, so you should do it for them. Who gives a flying fuck? Probably the most important of all, who actually cares? Even if all the other strategies don't work for you, even though they should, why would you care? It says as much about you if you let people get to you as it does about them. They might be insecure and hurting people who need to belittle and demean you to feel superior, and you're the person who's letting them do so by doing exactly what they want. I'm a strong advocate for not only not taking things personally, but just not really feeling insulted at all. Why? Because who cares what other people think about me? Even if the other person is trying to insult me. And there's no other way of looking at it. They for sure want to hurt me. They for sure are trying to take a stab at me. Okay, so what? Do I want my feelings and inner peace to be so fragile that it takes other people making me feel good constantly to maintain them? Do I want any random person to be able to get to me? No, it's in my control. I choose if my feelings are hurt or not. When your feelings are hurt easily, you're advertising to other people that you can be controlled easily. Stoicism is my friend here and offers me the perspective of focus on what you can control and accept what you can't. Your actions and reactions are within your control. Everything else is not. You have influence over other things, but not control. So with these, you now have the tools to deal with insults and taking things personally, since you can see if somebody's actually trying to cause you harm. If they're not, there's nothing to worry about. And if they are, surprise, surprise, it does not matter at all, and you should not let other people control how you feel. The alternative is continuing to let your emotions control you instead of you controlling them. This will make you more stressed, more anxious, have more negative emotion, all of which lead to a less happy life. It'll result in avoidable misunderstandings, conflicts, and damaged trust with the other people in your life. And it'll result in lots of missed opportunities to grow and change because you'll be too busy feeling butthurt to see the opportunity to get better that's right in front of you. One more thing that's right in front of you is that big old subscribe button. Give me that thumbs up and subscribe to stay updated with this content weekly. God, it's so funny doing those call to action things. Whatever. Anyway, just subscribe. Here's some additional strategies to stop taking things personally. Develop self-awareness. Be mindful of your own actions and thoughts, and think critically about them. It's much easier to learn quick if you're good at catching your own mistakes instead of having to wait for other people to catch you. Practice mindfulness and emotional regulation. How you react to emotions and the emotions themselves are completely different. They're not one and the same. Take accountability and start doing the work to flesh out how you want to react to each of your emotions. Build yourself a guide to work within. When you're angry, what kind of reaction do you want to have? Do you want to have outbursts or start yelling or just run away from the problem altogether? Or do you want to recognize what it is that's making you feel that way and try to minimize the situation or whatever that's causing that reaction? Maybe you want to minimize the reaction altogether. That's another thing. Do this for all the emotions that you still think you're having bad reactions for. Just ask yourself, how do I want to react when I get this emotion next time? And try to do it. This guide won't work all the time, but as you experiment with it, it'll get better. You have to be worse first to get better later. So practice, and don't be afraid to not be amazing as soon as you begin. Challenge negative thoughts and assumptions. Don't always assume you're right or that the way you see it is the same way everyone else does. You'll be wrong a lot, especially if you're at the beginning of this journey. Especially if your initial thoughts right now are something like, oh, they don't like me. Challenge that and see what other options could possibly be out there. And if it is that, so be it. You don't need to be liked by everyone, and you shouldn't want to be. Focus on what you can control. Your actions and reactions. That's the extent of your control. Your influence stretches further, but what you can actually control are just those two. You gotta be able to accept what you can't control. Things won't always go your way. You will fail. You will lose. A lot. There's no point in living a miserable existence where you're just getting hung up all the time on what's already happened. You just gotta be able to learn and grow. Like Cap said in Avengers Endgame, I think it was.
You gotta move on. You gotta move on.
Cultivate empathy and perspective taking. Be able to put yourself in other people's shoes. This won't only help for being able to stop taking things personally, but other situations like de-escalating conversations with people who are having immature reactions or dealing with random people who are just not being that nice. Ask yourself the question more often. How would you feel if the roles were reversed? What would you want the other person to be affording you? Benefit of the doubt? Probably. Maybe a bit of empathy and compassion? Definitely. What explanations could you come up with if you had behaved the way they had? We live in a world with other people, and unless you plan to live off the grid in some cave, grow your own crops, and not have any contact with anyone ever, you should probably get better at dealing with people. Might as well, since you're going to be doing it all the time. Groundhog life sounds pretty boring. Build self-esteem and self-confidence. I once heard of something called the spotlight effect, and it started making it so much easier to not care what other people think about me. It's basically this psychological phenomenon that makes us think that other people are paying way more attention to us than they actually are. Since we're all the centers of our own little universes, we sometimes get this notion that we're also the center of everyone else's. Reality check. No one cares. At all. I'm not kidding. You could literally go to the grocery store, go to the dairy aisle, and start humping the cheese section. And yeah, sure, some people might look at you funny, and you might be a funny story at the dinner table that night, but after that, those people will not think about you ever again. No one cares. Nobody is thinking about you. You're not as important as you think you are to everyone else. Not in any way that will have a meaningful impact on your life. So stop living for other people and being afraid of what they think about you, because they aren't. They are simply not thinking about you. They have their own shit, just like you. Seek feedback and use it constructively. Lots of people say stuff like, nobody likes to be corrected and everybody hates being wrong. And I honestly think this mindset should be switched. We should consider ourselves lucky if someone cares about us enough to point out our mistakes. We should thank them if anything. They're literally shoulder checking the blind spots in our character, and now we can lane change safely without sending it into the granny coming in on our right. Being wrong is not something to feel bad about, because if you're wrong, ideally you learn. So you either win or you learn. And if you learn, you win. So if you think about it this way, you literally can't lose. You win both ways. Now, isn't that a nice way of rigging life in your favor, eh? Start seeking out feedback and just take it for what it is without taking it personal. Your mind will be blown at how free you feel once you're out of the chains that you tie yourself up in. I'm a believer that 90% of the problems in our life are actually just caused by us. So start being the solution to the 10 instead of the cause of the 90. This journey will not happen overnight. It'll take work. It'll take failing. It'll take trying lots and getting it wrong. But as I said, being wrong is learning, and learning is winning. So no matter what, you're winning. Hope you guys all enjoyed this video and are ready to get out there and start winning. Make sure to check out the playlist Think Smarter Not Harder that should be right around here. And the subscribe button should be right around here. You already know what to do. See you in the next one.